Hello. In this video, we are going to get the arrow to try to destroy the target. So we're going to calculate whether the arrow has hit the target, and then if it does, then we're going to get it to disappear. All right, so let's start with trying to figure out whether that arrow is hitting the target. So when I click the mouse, then I get to shoot the arrow that way. So we want to determine whether it's happening or not. So kind of like we did in player versus wall, well, let's make a function called player versus target. So I'm going to go after that closing curly brace. So I'm still outside of that function. So function, let's see, arrow versus target. Parens, curly braces. And I'm just calling it target for now. I'll see what to do with that later. All right, so it's always going to check to see if it's happening, if they've collided. So sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So that's an if statement. So if parens 3 greater than 2, curly braces. All right, we think what variable helps us figure out whether the arrow has hit the target? Well, certainly arrow and target 1 are going to be really helpful here. So we'll try to start with that. So arrow dot, all right, so what property? Well, the arrow is always shooting to the right here, so I think only X is necessary, at least at one point right here, whether that's happening. So as long as X is greater than target 1 dot X, yeah, kind of start there, see what happens. So if arrow X is greater than target 1 dot X, then what should happen? Well, like it disappears or something. And there's a few nifty little tricks we could do for that. But I want to show you a good development strategy here. So I just want to test to see if I can determine did it hit the target or not. And I'm not really ready to make things disappear and do all that. So I'm going to do this. Console.log parens quotes hit. The console.log function will actually print something in the console down here. So when this if statement is finally true, then I should see the word hit down here in the console. So we'll see if that happens. And I feel like this if statement isn't finished. It's probably too simple, but we'll just try it out. So I define the function arrow versus target. So I'm going to go up to the draw function because when do I want to check? All the time. So yeah, I do player versus wall, so it seems like a good spot. Arrow versus target. There we go. All right, so that should work. All right, so no hit yet. I'm looking in my console, got nothing, so that's good. It shoots. Okay, well, it says hit. And what is actually happening, it keeps saying it, so that's interesting. That's why those numbers are increasing. And I didn't really hit the target, right? Okay, so it does wait, but it's not complex enough. So it's merely waiting to see if the arrow got that far to the right of the screen. But it also needs to be in the same Y position as the target. So this does need to be a little more complex. So that is where there's a few ways we could try to do that. We actually could put an if statement inside an if statement to make sure that both things are true. But there's a symbol that lets us do that. It's the AND symbol. So if I want to make sure that arrow.x is greater than target1.x and something else is happening. So that is the ampersand, that's the shift 7, and then usually do it twice. So you shift 7 there, and use that to get two and symbols. That will check to make sure that both of these things are true. And I just pressed enter there just to give myself some space. Yeah, so as long as target arrow.x is greater than target1.x and something else is happening where it's in the right position. I was too low, so let's make sure that I'm high enough. So if arrow.y is less than, that's how you know that you're high enough, is less than target1.y, something like that. All right, so now when I shoot, I don't get the wrong hit, so that's good. It might actually be really hard to test this. Yeah, I think I got a strategy though. At this, because we still have the bouncing thing going on, I think it's really hard to hit. All right, well, let's just jump to the next spot. Is that this? Oh, I did get a hit. Okay, there we go. And then it like stops, and yeah, the bouncing thing is definitely in the way. But there is another thing we need here. So it's not just that it's far enough to the right, and it's not just that it's far enough to the top. It must also be not too far to the top. So another and arrow dot y still is greater than. Yeah, because the last thing I did was making sure that it was enough to, it wasn't too far down. But now I need to make sure it's not too far up. So whether that is target1.y. And for the sake of testing, yeah, so I feel like that's really close. I do think I need to still tweak it a little bit. To make the testing a little bit easier, I'm going to move the target down. I'm going to make the Y position 200 or something. I think that's going to make it better. Yeah, that arrow moving like that. Not quite ready to fix that in my code yet because I want to get this collision thing happening first. I need to just be patient. Yeah, that should have been a hit. So I think this proves that I do still need to tweak my function a little bit, my if statement. Now we could look this up online, like how to do a collision here. And I'm just doing a simple like rectangle versus rectangle collision thing. So X I think is good. For Y, now remember that these are rectangles, so they always measure from the top left. So is the top of the arrow at least higher than, yeah, see, that was the problem. That I was trying to be both less than and greater than the same exact number at the same time. So that's why that was never going to happen. So is the top of the arrow higher than the bottom of the target, which is target1.y plus target1.size, and I think divided by 2 because that's a diameter. It is a circle. Yeah, if the top of the arrow and the arrow's so skinny, is less than the target, than the bottom of the target. But if the arrow is at least as far down as the target, you know what? I think I need to subtract because it's a circle. It's target 1 dot size divided by 2. I'm doing a rectangle versus rectangle collision here, even though one of the things is a circle. I could maybe make them both circles, at least when I do the collision stuff, but I think I might stick with this. Yeah, so if the arrow, it's so skinny, is at least as far down as the top of it, because this is the center. So I do need to go the radius up from there. Oh, didn't have a false hit at least. Got it. All right. And I only got one hit, so I mean, eventually it's tripping again, so that's strange. Um, I think, but there's another way we're going to solve that. So, all right, so we have detected whether there was a collision. I mean, it keeps going for some reason, but so we have detected that. So now we want to make the target actually disappear instead of just logging hit in here. Um, Now, what do we want to happen is to not draw the target. So somehow, this whole thing about drawing the target, we want to turn that off. Sometimes we want it to happen, and sometimes we don't. So that's an if statement. If statements usually use variables. Do we have variables that tell us whether this is happening or not? We don't. So we need more variables, or we need more properties or something. So for target 1, whether it should show up or not, maybe that would be some good information to have. So I'm going to make another property on target 1, target 1 dot live, I'll call it that. Now at the very beginning of the game, so this alive thing is, maybe we could put a number or something, but I can say true or false. That's a special value in programming. It's called a Boolean. So I'm going to say true. So target 1 dot alive equals true at the beginning of the game. And then I could use that to change things, because this can either be true or false. So instead of just saying draw target, I'm going to surround that with an if statement. If target 1 dot alive equals true. So if it's still alive, curly braces, and I'm going to put draw target inside of there. And it might make sense. Yeah, let's just stick with this. Yeah, so if target 1 dot alive is true, then draw target. If it's not, then don't. So I got a hit, but the target's still showing up. And the reason is because target 1 dot alive is still true. We never changed it. I never said it was false. When should it be false? Well, if it gets hit. So inside of arrow versus target, what should happen? Sure, I'll keep the console.log. But then still inside of this if statement, see how these are the curly braces for the if statement? Still inside of it, I'm going to say target 1 dot alive equals false. That way it can become false, so that if statement might see that, sees that it's not true. You think I'd have a trick by now. Oh, and there it goes, it disappeared. All right, so we got that one to disappear.